Breaking news! Things are heating up behind the scenes for the Buffalo Bills. The team is more focused than ever, working hard to make it to the Super Bowl. But do they really have what it takes to win the title? Before I tell you everything that's happening, do this. Hit the like button right now if you believe the Bills have the potential to go all the way this season. Seriously, I have a feeling this could be the Buffalo Bills' year. The roster is sharp, the fans are excited, and their rivals know this team can't be underestimated. But what about you? Do you believe it too? If so, write in the comments below, Go Bills! I believe! Let's show together that this fan base is huge. Now, let's get to the latest behind-the-scenes news. Bills Mafia, we need to talk about what could be a game-changing addition to the heart of our defense. The Buffalo Bills, sitting at pick number 30 in the upcoming 2025 NFL Draft, are in desperate need of size, power, and dominance on the defensive line. And one name keeps coming up, Kenneth Grant, the 6 feet 3 inches, 330-pound wrecking ball from Michigan. But here's the million-dollar question, will he even be there when the Bills are on the clock? Let's break this down. Grant is not your typical space-eating nose tackle. Sure, he's got the sheer mass to clog up running lanes, but what sets him apart, and why teams are drooling over him, is his rare blend of agility and power. This guy moves like a player 40 pounds lighter, which is exactly why analysts believe he has untapped pass rushing potential. His quick feet, lateral mobility, and ability to shed blockers make him a legitimate threat, not just as a run stopper, but also as a disruptor in the backfield. And if you need proof of his athleticism, just look back at that viral play from 2023 when he chased down Penn State running back Crone Allen, an insane feat for someone his size. Now, let's get real. If the Bills want Grant, they might have to move up. This is a stacked defensive tackle class, and teams are starving for interior linemen who can dominate in both the run and pass game. Some draft insiders are saying as many as 20 DTs could go in the first 3 rounds. That's a massive number. And with the Bills lacking true size in the middle of their defense, it's no surprise Grant is being projected as a perfect fit. But if Grant is gone, then what? Well, there's another monster lurking in this draft. Walter Nolan from Ole Mississippi. At 6 feet 4 inches, 305 pounds, he doesn't have the same sheer bulk as Grant, but in terms of raw power, he might be the strongest DT in the class. Some scouts are even comparing him to Jalen Carter in how he manhandles offensive linemen. He's got that rare short stroke power where he can explode off the line, plant his hands into a guard's chest, and just toss them aside. Nolan is a menace against the run, but he's also got that first step quickness that makes him a nightmare for quarterbacks. And then there's the wild card, Derek Harmon from Oregon. This guy is 6 feet 4 inches with crazy length and a wingspan that seems to stretch across the entire line of scrimmage. He's still a work in progress, but his physical traits are ridiculous. The Bills love players they can mold into future stars, and Harmon might be that type of long-term project who could pay off in a big way. So here's where it gets interesting. The Bills have to decide what they want most in a defensive tackle. Do they go all in for size and athleticism with Kenneth Grant? Do they prioritize pure power with Walter Nolan? Or do they take a chance on a high-upside player like Harmon? And what if the Bills pass on a DT altogether and wait until later rounds? This is one of the deepest defensive tackle classes we've seen in years, and Buffalo's front office has a huge decision to make. With Ed Oliver as their top interior presence, the Bills need a complement, a big-bodied, disruptive force who can anchor the defensive line and free up the pass rush. The AFC is stacked with elite offenses, and if Buffalo wants to finally get over the hump and reach a Super Bowl, controlling the trenches is non-negotiable. So now it's your turn. Bills Mafia, who do you want anchoring this defensive line? Should the Bills trade up for Kenneth Grant? Stay put and hope he falls? Or target a different monster in the middle? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this draft decision could define our defense for years to come. One thing is crystal clear. The Buffalo Bills cannot afford to miss on this pick. If they want to stay competitive in an AFC loaded with elite quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Lamar Jackson, they need a dominant force in the middle of the defensive line. Why size and power matter for Buffalo, let's be honest. The Bills have struggled against the run in key moments over the past few seasons. We've seen it time and time again. Late in games, teams pound the rock against Buffalo's defense, eating up clock and keeping Josh Allen on the sideline. Last year, the Bills were middle of the pack in run defense, but in the playoffs, that's not good enough. Adding a massive, athletic DT like Grant or Nolan could change the entire dynamic of this defense. Brandon Beane has made it clear that size is a priority. The Bills currently lack a true anchor at defensive tackle. Ed Oliver is an explosive, penetrating DT, but he's only 6 feet 1 inch, 287 pounds. Daquan Jones has been solid, but he's not a long-term solution. Buffalo needs a big-body disruptor who can command double teams, collapse the pocket, and stuff the run. Grant versus Nolan. Who's the better fit? Both Grant and Nolan bring elite traits to the table, but they have different styles of play. Wide heavy checkmark Kenneth Grant, Michigan, 6 feet 3 inches, 330 pounds, big, powerful, but surprisingly agile for his size, can control blockers, disrupt running lanes, and even flash pass rushing upside, still developing, but has the potential to be an elite DT in the NFL. Wide heavy checkmark Walter Nolan, Ole Miss, 6 feet 4 inches, 305 pounds, the strongest DT in the draft, dominates linemen with pure power, explosive off the line, plays with incredible leverage, less size than Grant, but potentially more polished as a pass rusher if the Bills are looking for a true space eater with athletic upside. Grant is the guy. If they want an immediate impact player who can overpower linemen from day one, Nolan might be the better option. Other options in round 1 and beyond. If both Grant and Nolan are off the board, the Bills could go a different route. Here are a few other defensive tackles to keep an eye on. Derek Harmon, Oregon, huge frame, long arms, developing prospect but with serious upside. Joshua Farmer, Florida State, quick, powerful, and disruptive in both the run and pass game. Alfred Collins, Texas, a physical freak at 6 feet 6 inches, 332 pounds, but needs to refine his technique. Omar Normanlott, Tennessee, undersized at 6 feet 2 inches, 291 pounds, but explosive and a potential interior pass rush specialist. The Bills could also consider waiting until the 2nd or 3rd round and drafting a DT like Harmon or Farmer, while using their first-round pick on a wide receiver or offensive tackle, 2 other areas of need. Final thoughts. The Bills' path to a championship defense. At the end of the day, this pick needs to be about building for the future while keeping Buffalo in Super Bowl contention right now. With Josh Allen leading the offense, the Bills' championship window is wide open, but they must improve in the trenches to compete with the elite teams in the AFC. If the Bills truly believe Kenneth Grant or Walter Nolan can be a game-wrecking force, trading up might be the best move. If they stay at number 30, they may have to hope a guy like Grant or Nolan falls, or pivot to another defensive tackle later in the draft. So, Bills Mafia, what's the move? Trade up for Grant? Take Nolan if he's there? Buffalo's blueprint, finding the perfect defensive tackle with free agency winding down and the draft quickly approaching. The Bills front office is in decision-making mode. They've already addressed some key needs, but defensive tackle remains a position they cannot afford to ignore. Right now, Buffalo's DT room consists of Ed Oliver, explosive but undersized, thrives as a gap shooter; Daquan Jones, veteran presence, solid run stopper but aging; Jordan Phillips, free agent, uncertain future, struggled with injuries; Tim Settle, free agent, likely gone, didn't produce as expected. That's not a deep group, especially when considering Daquan Jones is entering his 10th season. If Buffalo doesn't land a long-term answer now, they could find themselves scrambling in 2025. Kenneth